Everything you're about to hear is for education and entertainment purposes only. Whilst we are licensed, we're not aware of your personal financial circumstances. Any advice is general advice. Equity Mates operates under Australian Financial Services Licence 540697.
Equity Mates!
I will say this about investing. Everything you do learn is cumulative. What I learned at 20 is useful.
Equity.
Welcome to another episode of Equity Mates, a podcast where we explore what is possible in the world of investing. If you've just joined us for the first time, a massive welcome to the community. We have an exciting episode to jump into today. My name is Bryce, and as always, I'm joined by my equity buddy, Ren. How are you?
I'm very good, Bryce. Very excited for this episode. We are back with another Ask an Advisor. We have a new advisor joining us in the studio, but we're also trialing a new format here for this episode. Yeah. We are going to take on personas, Liam and Emma, and we are going to, I guess, try and be a little bit more detailed on the advice process, and we're going to take on these personas and get into some more specific questions related to the personas. But we'll get to all of that. Yeah. Before we do, we want to welcome Christine Dang to the studio. Christine, welcome to Equity Mates.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Now, Christine is from Fox and Hare. Glenn Hare has been on the show plenty of times before. So if you would like to speak with Christine, Glenn, anyone from the team or any of the other advisors in our network, a reminder that you can head to equitymates.com/advice, fill out the form, and we will connect you with the team. Now, today, as usually we field a bunch of questions, Christine, from the Equity Mates community. We do have a bunch of questions, but we're going to try and do it through the lens, as Ren said, of Liam and Emma. So we're going to put it on you today. I'm going to be Emma, Ren is going to be Liam, and we want to understand what it feels like to be in the room in one of those introductory sessions with an advisor. So ask all the questions you need to find out about us, and then in the second half of this episode, we're then going to take the information that we've given you and actually hopefully get some level of general advice.
Okay.
So, shall we get into persona?
Yeah, let's do it. And we need like a door opening sound effect as we like walk into your office, yes. Christine. But I guess let's start at the very beginning. When you first meet new clients, like what's your approach and what information do you need to get from us?
Sure. Emma, Liam, can you tell me a little bit more about why you're here today?
So we are here because we're in the sort of early stage of our careers, early 30s. I'm 30 years old and Liam is 32 years old. And we feel like we're in a position where we need some advice because we have some pretty big life goals coming up.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And can you tell me a little bit more about what those goals are?
Yeah, sure. So in the short term, we're saving for a wedding next year, and we also are traveling to Europe. Classic. I guess more medium term, we're looking at having starting a family in the next 2 to 3 years. We've been starting to look at things like maternity and paternity leave policies. But I think long term, we would love to buy our first home within the next 3 years. We'd love to start thinking about how we save for that family and for education and the like. And I guess, for a while we've had the goal of retiring as early as possible and building some flexibility into our lives.
Yeah, wow, that is a lot on. And thank you for sharing with me. Okay, so in terms of your current financial situation, can you tell me a little bit more about what's the current state of play?
So I'm a registered nurse. Liam is a marketing manager. I earn $95,000 a year and Liam's on $105,000. So combined, we're at $200,000 a year. Our current financial situation, we have $20,000 in a joint savings account, plus $15,000 in a high interest savings account. We both have HEX debt totaling $15,000. I have about $5,000 and Liam $10,000. We have a car loan of $20,000, which we're paying off each month, $500 a month. And then Liam's the investment guy. You want to talk through our investments?
Yeah. So we want to kind of maximize the amount we're investing before we have kids, and we're pretty comfortable with sort of a reasonable level of risk to set ourselves up. We have $10,000 in a ETF, and we've got about 90,000 combined in our superannuation.
Yeah, sure. And what about cash flow? So once the income lands in your bank account, what about what goes out and what your capacity to save is?
So it feels like a fair chunk goes out at the moment. We are paying rent of $2,800 a month for a 2-bedroom apartment. We spend about $1,000 a month on food and eating out. We've got all the streaming services, about $100 a month, and spend about $200 a fortnight on gym and exercise and saunas and going to the pool and those sorts of things. So capacity to save, I don't know, what do we reckon?
Well, that's why we're here, I guess. Yeah.
So it sounds like you don't have consumer debt, which is good, but in terms of how much you're able to save, you're not quite sure.
We're not quite sure, yeah.
We do have that car loan, though.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, all right. And so in terms of what would you say would be some of the pain points that you have when it comes to managing your finances in line with the goals that you have? What do you struggle with?
So I think one of the main ones is trying to prioritise how we tackle the goals. You know, we want to buy a home, but we also want to go to Europe. We want to start a family. We're saving for a wedding. We're paying rent. So it feels like we've got a lot going on. And so figuring out how to prioritise and allocate money accordingly is probably one challenge.
Yeah, I think just the high cost of everything, you know, we're looking at the cost of a wedding and that's quite daunting. We're looking at the cost of buying our first home and that's quite daunting. We're looking at the cost of starting a family and that's quite daunting. And so I think we're at this point in our life where we just are overwhelmed by the amount of costs that are coming in relative to the amount that we are able to save and invest at the moment. And so we're hoping that you can work your magic and save us.
Yeah, sure. So Emma and Liam, I mean, you're right. You've got a lot of goals coming up in the next 5 years. And my first question to you around the goals is, well, what's non-negotiable? And what are you prepared to be more flexible with, especially around the time frames?
Good question. This might be a little bit of a counselling session. Non-negotiable. I think getting married and having a family, non-negotiable. Yeah. Is that the same for you, Liam?
I guess. I think the security of having a house as well is something that would be non-negotiable. Perhaps the timeline is the negotiable part of that one, but yeah.
I could forego 6 weeks in Europe for less weeks somewhere else, potentially.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe no holiday at all?
Maybe no holiday. No, I think holidays are important.
And what about starting a family? You've said that it's in about 2 to 3 years. Is that something that you want to happen before you buy a home, or is it the other way around?
I think having the security of the home feels like the order to do it, but it's one of those things that if it happens, it happens.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
Hadn't thought about that.
Because when I look at your goals, the first thing that jumps out at me is that if you want to buy a home in the next 3 years, and you've shared in your fact find that it's about $800,000. And so generally speaking, we do guide our members to set aside 25% to buy a home, 20% for a deposit, 5% for costs. So that's about $200,000 that you'll need to be saving in the next 3 years. And if we break that down per year, that's about $67,000 per year. Based on the income that you're earning, I'm not sure that that's going to be achievable unless you want to be living on beans and rice for the next few years and not getting married and then potentially not travelling as well. So that's the first thing that jumps out at me.
So really what you're saying is that goal for us needs to extend in time horizon, or we need to find a way to earn more money.
Yes, yeah. So if you're not prepared to extend that time frame, we are going to have to really buckle down to make that work. And I would argue, just knowing that you've shared with me that you enjoy dining out, you do enjoy having a good lifestyle in the short term. It is going to be about finding the right balance and knowing what you value. I think it's going to be best to reconsider that time frame.
Interesting. Thoughts on that?
Well, I think the maths is the maths. Yeah.
And look, the other thing is in terms of, so it's great that you've got some goals and that you're prepared to be flexible depending on what your priorities are. But when we break it back down to, when we take it back to your cash flow, really understanding, well, what can you spend on a day-to-day basis and just having some boundaries around that, because you've shared that you don't really know how much it is you save. And when you don't know how much you're saving, we don't know whether these goals are going to be possible and what time frame you're going to have to be reconsidering for your home goal. And how we do that is to get super clear in terms of how much money lands into the bank account, how much do you need to enjoy your lifestyle on a day-to-day basis, put some boundaries around that, around how you're structuring your bank accounts. And from there, anything that you can save is really taking that out of your hands into very clear savings accounts or investment accounts that are linked to the goals. So at the moment, I would say you've got a bit of a blob effect happening where you've got 20,000 in a joint savings account, 15,000 in a high interest savings account, but I don't really know why. Do you know why? What is that for?
Yeah, it's a good question. I guess to work towards all of those goals, but not in any specific way.
Yeah. So the blob effect is that on paper it looks like you're in a good position because you've got $35,000 in savings, but we really don't have any clarity around, okay, well, what savings is for what goal? How are we tracking? What more do we need to do? How much do we need to be putting into each savings account or investment account per month so we can get to where we want to be? And so to break it down, a good example is the wedding. We've got about 12 months. Okay, so how much have we already saved for the wedding?
Well, we could take anything out of those two accounts that we've got, 35,000.
Based on the cost of a wedding these days, we're probably draining both of those savings accounts, selling the car, selling the investment.
Well, look, you could put all your savings to the wedding account if that's the number one priority, and then that would give you clarity on how much more would you need to be saving per month over the next 12 months. The risk there is that once the wedding's done, you're not actually going to have any money left. Well, you might have already done Europe with no money because you said you want to do Europe, but you might actually have to be starting over for the next priority, and that could be the home or starting a family.
Yeah. So if we just pause here, Christine, and think about Liam and Emma, how relatable is this persona to the people that are coming through your doors and that you're seeing on a day-to-day basis?
I would say 90% of the people that I see are in a similar position as Liam and Emma, where they want to go travelling, want to have a good lifestyle on a day-to-day basis, don't want to be living on beans and rice, want to start a family, want to get married and want to buy a home. Buying a home and starting a family are the top two common goals when it comes to our member base.
I think it's the moment in your life where like good financial habits and that blob effect that you were talking about, where it was like just build wealth, start investing, start saving, just get on the right track, then becomes the, oh, now I gotta be like more specific and more targeted. Now, Bryce, I think this is a good point to come out of our Liam and Emma personas and then start to actually unpack some of their financial situation. We've got a bunch of questions from the community that we're going to ask through the lens of Liam and Emma. But before then, let's take a quick break. Welcome back to Equity Mates. We are here for an Ask an Advisor episode. We're joined by Christine Dang, a financial advisor at Fox and Hare. Before the break, we introduced Liam and Emma, our personas for today's episode. We unpacked their financial situation and their goals. Now, Christine, we wanted to sort of ask some questions about their financial situation. And I guess the first one is, when you think about Liam and Emma, how common or how average is their financial situation compared to the people that come through the door and that you see at Fox and Hare? But just staying on those personas, we gave Liam and Emma a combined income of $200,000. How would you sort of assess that financial situation, that level of income, and I guess all of the things around it, how much they'd saved, how much they were investing, was that a good point for them to go and seek advice?
For sure, yes. So I believe seeking advice as early as possible is important. I know accessibility to advice can be a challenge, but whenever possible, seeking advice early just gives you a better chance at success when it comes to money and success when it comes to building a strategy for your goals. We know life is constantly changing, goals constantly evolve. And so why not start, I would say, as early as you can with a framework, and you can optimise the framework, you can optimise what you're saving for and what goals they are as your life changes. People often, they wait until they have a reason, like a goal, or they want to buy a home and start a family before they seek advice. And by then it's really hard because we have less time to work magic.
How do you
work magic? Nice.
How do you think about balancing that with just the cost of advice, though?
Yeah. Nowadays, I think advice is more accessible because you do have advisors who offer one-off advice to people who are just starting out in the workforce, and you have people who are working with a higher income, high net worth clientele. So I think, look, it's certainly hard, I'm not going to lie, and I wish it was easier for people to seek advice, but I think it's still just worthwhile going out and seeing what's available with advisors, even if it's just having a consult to get a bit of a sense check on your situation. It's still going to be worthwhile because most of the time advisors, like we do 45-minute coffees where we're prepared to give you an assessment on your whole situation, and whether you proceed or not, that's okay.
Yeah, I think that's one thing I've learned through this sort of last 18 months is date your advisors. Like, go out and speak to a number of them. You all offer that 45 to 1 hour free consultation where you could probably get a good sense of whether or not you're ready for it, or you might be convinced that it is worth spending the money on if you can.
Yeah.
So Liam and Emma, they had a lot of short-term goals there: wedding, travel, starting a family, as well as that long-term children's education and whatnot. Is the first part of your role really to help people prioritise those goals? Like, how do you generally recommend? I think you said in the persona there that it's impossible for us to achieve all of those in our time frame. So how do you approach a situation like this?
Yeah, it's a tough one because particularly when it comes to starting a family and wedding, right? That's out of my scope. I'm not a relationship counsellor, but certainly encouraging my members to have a think, have a talk about, well, what's a non-negotiable? What are they prepared to be more flexible on when it comes to travel, for example? If travel's still important, well, does it have to be a trip to Europe? Can it be somewhere locally to enable more cash flow going to the other goals?
So fundamentally, let's say Liam and Emma, after everything, are saving, I don't know, $3,000 a month or thereabouts. That seems combined income, $200K, $3,000 a month. So what, $36,000 a year or thereabouts. Is it just then taking that lump sum and going, all right, here are your goals and this is how we're going to break it down?
Yeah.
Next question.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So, looking at, what's the order of priorities, working out, like I said to Liam, how much do you have currently for that goal? And when is that goal? So, for example, it might be 12 months away. How much more do we need to be saving over that 12 month? And it might be, of that $3,000 a month, okay, we need to be saving $1,000 a month for that wedding goal. Great. Then the remaining $2,000 can go to the other goals.
Yeah, makes sense.
You're probably missing a key part of what can be done.
What's
saving $3,000 a month, $36,000 a year. Surely the other question is, can we make that bigger?
Absolutely. Yeah. No doubt.
And that probably leads on to the next question that I had around our personas. We had consumer debt. Well, does car loans count as consumer debt?
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
I think so. No.
Not credit cards, but, we had debt. We also had HEX debt. We didn't say that was an explicit goal to pay down the debt, but obviously when we think about like what they can do to get ahead financially, particularly the car loan, like getting that off the books and getting those repayments off can really help cash flow. How would you think about balancing the goal that they didn't speak about, debt, with the other goals that they did speak about?
Yeah, so with the car loan, I mean, there's probably going to be a relatively high interest rate. Emma and Liam can certainly clear their car loan if they wanted to, but it would free up $500 a month in surplus because that's what they're paying to their car loan. And so, again, not my place to tell Emma and Liam what to do, but it would be about, okay, well, if you don't pay off your car loan, you're saving $3,000 a month. This is where you'll be with your wedding, your travel, your plans to start a family. Now, if you clear the car loan and you're $20,000 less in savings, but you have an extra $500 per month in surplus, this is where you'll be. And my gut would say they're not actually going to have much more money for their wedding, for example, in 12 months' time, $6,000, but they'll be $20,000 without savings. So I don't like debt, but with their situation, it is a bit of a balance between managing the debt repayments for the time being while they work towards their goals.
And the other question about debt that we always get are the HEX debt. How should people be thinking about that?
Look, it's the same as the car loan, because if I look at the debt alone, it's not great, and especially now that they're indexing the HEX loans too, those debts are going up faster than what they were previously. But again, coming back to, okay, well, the money's being deducted from your pay and the money that they're saving now is going towards their goals. So again, it's that balance between being debt-free, which is nice, but for them having that cash flow is really important for their goals. So unless they're prepared to push some of that out, then I wouldn't be jumping at clearing the debt too fast.
When you say it's not your job to tell them what to do, when you get a statement of advice, is it a situational analysis that you receive, or are you saying we recommend you pay off debt first, then do this, or it's like if you pay off the debt, this is where you'll be? What level does the statement of advice actually give?
Yes. So for Emma and Leah, we would be making a specific recommendation around this is what you should be saving, this is what your cash flow structure will look like, this is what you'll be investing. But I would be giving them an option as well. Look, if you've expressed to me that the car loan is bugging you a little, if you do want to clear it off, you can. But this is where you're going to be with your goals, and this is how much you'll be able to save. Yeah. Just so they have then the tools to decide, okay, well, do I want to go down that path? Am I prepared to push my goals out a little bit? Or actually, no, I want to prioritise my wedding or my other goals, so I'll just keep the car loan as is. So we call them alternative strategies.
Yeah, nice.
So let's turn to buying a house. And for me, the situation here seems like, one of those triangles where you can only have two of the three. Like you can have it cheap, you can have it fast, and you can have it good quality. You can never have all three, but you can choose the two that you have. It feels like Emma and Liam are in one of these situations. They can have the house on the timeline they want, they can have the house at the value they want, or like they can have all the other lifestyle things and other goals that they want. And it's like you can have two of the three, but you can't have all three. But that's just my read of the situation. I guess as an advisor, clients come to you because they want all three. And they expect you to find a way to thread that needle and deliver all three. So how would you approach both the hard financial side of figuring this problem out for them, but probably also the psychological and behavioural side of working your clients through what they want and what they can achieve? With
Emma and Liam, if the goal is high up on the priority list, I would be encouraging them to see whether there would be any assistance within their family to help them with purchasing the home. For example, could a family member be a guarantor? Is there a potential for a gift or early inheritance to help them with buying a home? It's very common now that we see that parents are prepared to help their kids with buying first home because of affordability issues. The second part would be about, it's never easy, but really just understanding, well, what's the reason behind buying the home, and also the time frame as well. Is it because some people might say, oh, well, when I have kids, I want to have security and that's why I want to buy my own home. And then I would be asking, okay, well, is this home, like the $800,000 mark, is this a home that you see your family growing into, or is this, some people want to buy a home just to get their foot in the market? And if that's the case for Emma and Liam, I don't know whether they want to have another child in the future, but it's not really going to make sense to buy a home that you're going to outgrow in the next few years. Ideally, we want them buying a home that they can stay in for at least 5 years, because when it comes to buying a home, the cost of transacting is quite high.
So just on that though, doesn't that create a bigger problem? Because if it's, you actually want to buy the house that you're going to grow into and you might want 3 kids, so you need multiple extra bedrooms, and then that blows the $800K out to $1.2 million.
Yeah.
Doesn't that just make it more unachievable?
Oh, well, in the 3-year time frame, yeah. So if it is a bigger home that they can grow into, I would really be encouraging them to reconsider that time frame and be more flexible with it.
You're saying, okay, we agree that instead of 2 to 3 years, realistically, it's more 7 years. What do you suggest they do with that money? Is it just stick it into a savings account, or do you have some sort of low risk investment strategy that sort of underpins that over a long period of time?
Yeah, so 7 years we would consider that a medium time frame. And with where interest rates are at, they're actually quite competitive with the alternative, which would be investing in a balanced or growth style investment. Of course, depending on the Liam and Emma's risk profile as well. It also comes down to the client's habits too, because if they're going to be saving quite a fair bit in a high interest savings account where they could certainly get a 5% return, the accessibility of money is certainly a risk, because we know the more money we have in a bank account, the higher our willpower has to be. So it does come down to how disciplined are they. But I certainly think a high interest savings account is a winner. But also, if the discipline is relatively low, a balanced or a growth investment, or even a term deposit for Liam and Emma.
How do you think about the alternatives to the owner-occupier first house? So if you say like the first owner-occupier house they should get is the one for their full family, and it's maybe at that 1.2 price point, and we're talking 7 to 10 years away, do you see any value in the first property being an investment property and rent vesting or anything like that?
If it's around a 7 to 10 year time frame, yeah, I'm certainly open to that. But when I look at their situation, I just can't see an investment property working for their life because of what their goals are over the next few years.
Now, if they didn't have costs.
Sorry?
They've got a lot of costs coming in.
Yeah. And so, the more time that passes, that time frame to them buying their family home shortens, and it comes back to if they're not buying and holding for at least 5 years, then I don't think it's worthwhile.
Yeah.
What's interesting is that on their goals, there's nothing around building wealth outside of the home. They have a 10 grand in an ETF. They've obviously got superannuation, but no sort of. I mean, they say they want to retire early and take risk while they can. If you see a situation like that, do you encourage people to think beyond just putting all the money in the property, or how do you go about that conversation?
Yes, I do. And you're right, because they've got 2 goals to save for their kids' education and to retire early. I encourage members to be investing, even if it's as little as $100 a month.
Yeah.
And nowadays, that's very possible without the high costs of trading. And the reason for that is for them to see their investments grow slowly, it does become like that positive, I guess, like the mouse and the cheese, right? It's like a positive psychology for them to keep going. And even though it's not a lot, at least it's still something, and they get the benefit of the compounding interest. And the other part is because you're already doing a regular investment into something, it's then easier to optimize as opposed to starting.
Yeah.
Starting is a lot harder than just optimizing what you already have. So as they finish their travels or once their wedding is done, they might be able to increase that $100 a month they're investing to $200. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but that's a 100% increase. And when I position that to members in that way, they're like, oh, like for them, it's another, like a serotonin hit for them to keep going.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's so... All the preconceived notions people have about why they can't invest. I don't have enough time, I don't have enough knowledge, I don't have enough money, it's too risky. Just starting with a very small amount and consistently putting it in and learning how the market works, you start to answer all of those questions.
For sure. It's easier to understand when you've got skin in the game than when you're just standing on the sidelines making a comment. And everyone's investing already in their super.
Yeah.
And a lot of people we see their super balance being their largest investment.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot to be learned by looking at what they're doing without even thinking about it.
Yeah.
And so it's applying that outside of the super environment as well.
So talking about super, let's talk about how Emma and Liam have set up their super, because we know it's the biggest financial free kick that we'll get as Australians, that tax-advantaged retirement account. But they also have a lot of goals outside of super. They want to retire early, which means they need to build wealth outside of super. So on one hand, they probably should be making concessional contributions and adding to it. But on the other hand, where that money is going to come from with everything else they want to achieve is going to be difficult. So how would you counsel Liam and Emma and help them set it up?
Yeah, it's similar to why they should be investing. So while it's not a priority because it is, there's a long time until they retire, I would argue if they implemented a salary sacrifice concessional contribution, even if it's $50 per pay cycle, they're not going to actually feel the impact of the reduction in their pay, and they're going to get more bang for their buck putting that $50 into super. And again, that compounding effect over 33 years, 35 years for them will be significant, but all they've done is a very small step along the way.
Nice. So just to close out, I wanted to touch on kids and their goals. So they've said kids. It feels like their goal may be that if the home is being pushed out, they might end up having kids before they get their family home. Emma has a maternity leave policy of 14 weeks paid, and Liam has 4 weeks paternity leave. Again, how would you approach the conversation around setting up financially and thinking through what they need to do for that period?
Look, having kids is probably the most expensive time of your life, and I'd be looking to understand what the ideal, it's called antenatal care, so the care leading up to baby being here, and also what does the ideal postpartum look like and parental leave look like. So, for example, if you want private antenatal care, then you're really going to have to be factoring about $10,000 for costs, and then the public care system will be basically nothing. Then it'll be looking at, okay, well, how much do you need to get yourself set up to be baby friendly around the house? And then the post part is, well, how much time do you want off? And nowadays we see both birthing parent and non-birthing parent taking time off, so really understanding, well, what's the ideal for you both? And how much money does that look like in terms of, okay, if you're not earning an income for 9 months, Emma, and Liam, you're not earning income for 3 months, then what do we need to be accounting for in the cash flow that's not being covered by things like parental leave and the government schemes?
Work to be done, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, Christine, I think we could keep talking about Liam and Emma for a long time, given we really gave them a full financial history and a lot of goals. But I think we've covered off some of the main points. I guess just a concluding question as we wrap up our initial session with you. We've covered a lot. Like, do you have any final bits of advice or anything that you think we haven't covered that you'd want to leave Emma and Liam with as they walk out today?
Yes, Emma and Liam, look, you've taken the hardest step, which is coming to see me and having a chat about your situation. So thanks so much for sharing about your goals and what's going on in your world. From here, I really do encourage you to maintain the momentum, because we know that the first step is hardest, but from here, if you can maintain the momentum, whether it's going home and taking a look at your cash flow and setting up a structure, like I mentioned, it's going to be key for you to achieve these goals. We don't want you to be putting your head in the sand, because these goals, they're not going to be getting any further away. They're just going to be getting closer and closer. So the more time we have, the better.
Nice.
Love it. Well, thank you, Christine. Really appreciate you coming in. A reminder that if you would like to chat to Christine, Glenn, anyone at Fox and Hair for your initial consultation, 45-minute consultation for free to get an understanding if it is right for you, you can head to equitymates.com/advice, fill in the form. We also have plenty of other advisors in the network that we can connect you with, but we do encourage that first session is free and you get a sense of what to expect. But Christine, thank you so much. We really appreciate you coming in and speaking with us and Emma and Liam.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Christine.
You have been listening to an Equity Mates Media production. In the spirit of reconciliation, Equity Mates Media acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. This podcast is intended for education and entertainment purposes. Any advice is general advice only and has not taken into account your personal financial circumstances, needs, or objectives. Before acting on general advice, you should consider if it is relevant to your needs and read the relevant product disclosure statement. And if you're unsure, please speak to a financial professional. The hosts of this podcast and their guests may have positions in the companies mentioned. Equity Mates Media operates under an Australian Financial Services Licence 540697.